And we are live with the PHU Dynasty Podcast. This is episode 26, I believe. And I'm here with my in-person co-host, which is, it just doesn't happen that often.
You love to see it.
You do love to see it. We're trying to do a gigantic rookie draft preview. We're trying to do all-time busts. We're trying to do a rookie mock draft. We're trying to do so much stuff for you guys in pretty much hopefully the shortest amount of time possible, considering how much crap we have to get going through. But
a lot of shit to do. We should probably just get started.
We probably should get started. So I'm going to go ahead and share some of this wonderful slidage here. And right now, we're going to start it right out the gate with some of our greatest picks. These are the best picks for every draft slot. So we're going to go through one by one for the first round, and we're gonna yeah everybody has to see this. Everybody has to see these are all the picks that I have recorded all the way back to 2012, so we can really review who's done well, what picks worked out, what picks didn't, and we can also take a look at what draft slots historically have been the most fruitful, Sean. And some of them, I'll be honest with you, I made these slides and there's some real doozies in there. So let's get right into it here with 1.1. This is tough because there are a few that are still young and still could turn things around. And then there's kind of some like up and down also picks here as well. So and of course all these are technically my opinion because I made all these, but I think Ezekiel Elliott out of this list as it stands right now has been the most successful 1.1 pick.
I forgot Gio Bernard went 1-1.
He sure did. Over Le'Veon Bell. We'll get to that though. That's a whole nother thing. But yes, Gio Bernard went 1-1. And that was the 2013 draft. The 2012 draft was Andrew Luck when we didn't really know what we were doing. Although he probably could be a viable, first round pick in today's standards, maybe not 1-1. However, there are quite a few on here that just straight up busted. There's no way around it. When you look at
who?
I mean, we can just start with N'Keal Harry.
Sure.
It's not exactly the greatest first round pick, and not even first round pick, but first overall pick. You want a little more production probably. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, another Sean pick. 1-1. It hasn't quite worked out yet, but there's still time.
In my defense, I had 1-1 and 1-2. I took Jonathan Taylor 1-2, so it's all that one was kind of a wash. Like it could be either one at 1.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, if you just flip flop them, it would maybe in 2 years, Jonathan Taylor is the best 1-1. And just getting back to Ezekiel, he for what he is, he's been very consistent his entire career. Hasn't had the injury bug too much until recently. He's what you want out of number 1 overall pick. Like he's given you the RB1 production, and he's still viable even now. I mean, like he's still, he's not what he used to be, but he's still putting up numbers. And when you look at some other players on this list, such as Sammy Watkins, when you see that draft over again, you'll be like, wow, I can't believe Sammy Watkins went 1 overall, because that he's definitely not in the top 5 discussion from that draft. And then Leonard Fournette, had his couple of years, and he's still chugging and might have some contention as well. But Ezekiel Elliott has been pretty much a dynasty RB1 for the last 6 years probably at this point.
Yeah, he'll have staying power too. He's the best blocking running back in the NFL, and he's great short yardage. So
right,
he'll stay. He'll be viable for a while still.
And I also don't think that he's not done as a lead back, in my opinion. I still think he had a lot of nagging injuries last year. There's still a chance that he can take that lead role still, with the sprinkling of Tony Pollard as well. So
yeah, that line isn't what it used to be too. So that's hurting everybody's opinion of him. That's
true. And also on this list, Najee Harris. He's I wish I had the soundbite ready to go, but I don't. He's looked great for the first year, and there's the chance that he has that staying power to be on this list or be higher on this list later on. So, and by the way, these aren't best to worst as far as how I listed out. It's actually the years they were drafted. So, and then the number 1 not being included in the list. So There's still some time on Najee, obviously. There's still some time on Clyde Frog. However, I think we can kind of wipe up Todd Gurley from this list, and Gio is a third down back at this point in his career. That's over.
Yeah, that was.
So Saquon still might have some juice. We'll have to see how he does this year, if he's going to hold up. But 1.1 is Ezekiel Elliott.
Who would you take as the 1-1, Fournette or Barkley? Who do you think's been the better 1-1?
I mean, more reliable is Fournette for sure.
Yeah.
He's played more games. I mean, clearly. And I think also Fournette, he had league-winning power for the first, couple of years of his career. Same as Saquon, but Saquon just hasn't been available. And, being available is a big thing in Dynasty, of course. So
it's your best ability.
It sure is. And I really need him this next year if I'm going to have any idea of competing. So we'll see. 1.2, this one is very interesting, mostly because of recent years. We've basically had some head scratchers, if you will, from this list. But the last 2 years, we had Jamar Chase and Jonathan Taylor at 1-2. And both of those guys, with a few years more, could easily take the number 2 spot overall instead of Mike Evans. But Mike Evans has been so damn consistent. And I don't know how you can argue against him being the best pick from this list, because he's had 1,000 yards every single year of his career. And it just doesn't seem like he's slowing down anytime soon. So I think he's the best 1.2 out of this list.
Yeah, pencil him in for 1,000 yards and double-digit touchdowns, at least until Brady's gone, but that's not apparently happening. So.
Right. Yeah, apparently he's just playing forever. And it seems like, too, look at the last 3 years. All three, Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor, Jamar Chase, all three of those guys have been great 1.2 picks. So who says you need 1-1? Maybe you don't even need it.
Sure. It's overrated.
And McCaffrey, I almost call him McCaffrey, but he, we got to see what happens next year. He might even be playing for another team. Who the hell knows? Ronald Jones hasn't worked out. Laquan Treadwell definitely hasn't worked out. We might get to them later on the all-time bust list. We'll see. But we think, I think Mike Evans has been the best out of this list.
Was Melvin Gordon your pick?
He was my 1.2 pick. I gave up quite a bit to get to that pick, and he's been fine.
Did he scare the shit out of you his rookie year when he didn't score a touchdown?
That was concerning, but I knew the talent was there, and he did have, I'd say he had 2 or 3 very quality years for me, and I was very happy with that 1.2 pick, because realistically at a running back, are you going to expect more than 3 great years? Not really, probably. Unless they're a generational talent like Jonathan Taylor, probably not.
That's right.
All right, so let's go to 3. So this is when things start getting interesting. So Alvin Cook obviously was a great 1.3. He's been pretty much a stud for the last 3 years now. And when you look at some of these other guys, CD and Pitts, I really had a hard time putting any of those guys at the top, because simply they just haven't been in the league long enough. So you'll see a growing trend of that as we go on, that these guys are lower on the list and definitely could be higher in a couple of years. They just haven't been around that long. But look at some of these other names. 1.3 has been a churn of garbage, especially early on in the early years. 2012, Trent Richardson. 2013, Monty Ball. 2014, Kelvin Benjamin. Finally turned it around a little bit with Amari Cooper, but then we went right back to the dumps, to Jordan Howard, Darius Geis, and Miles Sanders has been okay. But none of those guys are better than Alvin Cook. So that was an easy 1.3.
This looks like it's like people taking the other guy at running back, and it's just not working out.
Yeah, and a lot of it too. If you one and 1-2 had some really quality picks over the years, but 1-3 it seems like you're pretty much just getting all or nothing, which kind of makes sense, because usually there's not 3 superstars in any draft. It's usually 1 or 2. Mm-hmm. Last year was a bit of an anomaly, if you will. So 1.4, this is another fun one. There's some fun names in here. Deandre Hopkins,
Kevin White,
to me has been one of the better players over the last decade for our league. He was drafted in 2013. Basically, he's been a wide receiver 1 since, for 7 years. I had a hard time voting anybody else over him. Doug Martin, Jordan Matthews, Tyler Boyd, Corey Davis, Kevin White, Rashad Penny, all those guys did not meet draft expectation. Montgomery is still pretty solid, so I have no problem with that. Akers seems to be on the up, and of course Javonte, everybody loves right now. So all I think all three of those bottom guys have chances to maybe leapfrog a little higher, perhaps into the rankings of 1.4. But Deandre's just been so solid.
Yeah, he's just super consistent. I didn't realize Tyler Boyd went so high in that draft. That's crazy.
Yeah, that was a Ian Pisano pick.
Of course it was.
I believe. So
that's right. I traded him to James. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think that was an Ian Pisano selection. And wait until we get a little. I think it's next one or the one after. There's some more Ian Pisano sprinklings in there, if you will. So here we go at 1.5. This is really bad. I had a hard time writing these down because there's not a lot going on. But DJ Moore, in my opinion, was the best out of this group, and maybe by default, Sean, because there's just not a lot of other good 1.5 picks over the years. Kobe Fleener, trash. Bishop Sankey. And let's not fault Scavelli for Bishop Sankey. Everybody else would have made the same pick, in my opinion. Because
I haven't thought about that name in
I know years. It's been a long time, but Bishop Sankey was the number one running back that year, and everybody kind of believed in that. Tyler Eifert as well. Basically tight ends, unless you're Kyle Pitts, should not go in the top 5, really. We kind of didn't figure that out until later on in the process, it seems like. But Devontae Parker busted a little bit. Kenneth Dixon was a big fat bust. That was an Ian Pisano as well, I believe.
Nice.
And
he
Mike,
was on my roster when I got it.
Mike Williams actually has turned it around. It didn't look very good for the first couple of years. Mecole Hardman, do we even need to discuss Mecole Hardman? Probably not.
I sure don't.
And then Judy and Travis Etienne. Notice all three of those last three are all Alex at 1.5.
Would you look at that?
It's unbelievable. He's just done a wonderful job collecting 1.5s over the last years, and none of them have worked out. So it's just maybe you got to get away from 1.5. Who knows? 1.6 is not a whole lot better. Joe Mixon is obviously the best out of this list, in my opinion.
Marcus Wheaton.
Oh, I love my Marcus Wheaton pick. Yeah, you might see him pop up on the all-time bust list. Justin Blackman literally never played it down. Dante Moncrief was garbage. Max Williams was basically garbage. Josh Doxson was garbage.
Big old bust.
Honestly, Sony Michel might be like the second or third best out of this list right now.
Yeah.
Joe Mixon, let's not forget to talk about, I think this is a Tibbs first round selection. And, it's hard to find running backs at all at the end of towards the end of the first round. So to get one like Joe, really great pick. And
it's still almost frustrating because it feels like the hype is always so high on Joe Mixon. And it's like he should be the guy, one of the top few running backs every year.
Right.
And he's right off of that tier every time. But
yeah,
still
he could be in that top tier, but it's always something. It's either he's injured or he lets people down or just something. But he's still been, a really quality fantasy asset since he's been in the league. So, and then of course Trevor Lawrence and J.K. Dobbins towards the bottom of this list. I mean, Trevor Lawrence should not have been 1.6. We all know that, but there's still time for these guys.
Trevor Lawrence, that horse is so far into the ground. We've talked that thing.
Yeah, we don't need to touch. We don't need to discuss it, to be honest, any more than we've already have. So, all right. So 1.7. This is a really fun one because there are a few that you could argue on this one. There are definitely a few. I put Odell because, truthfully, this is encompassing a decade's worth of picks. Who is the most valuable, at their peak, for a decent amount of time? I would say it's Odell. I mean, he was the 1.1 in startup drafts for a few years. He was the guy. And he's still productive now. So it's not like he's completely fallen off the face of the earth, but he still gets his targets and he's still going to be viable. I think he's the best out of the list. However, if you look in recent years, there are definitely a few that will be coming for him.
Yeah, in a couple of years, I would imagine one of those guys will be the guy at the top of that list.
I would say DK right now probably has the highest upside for me.
I would go with Swift.
Swift is great too. I just can't trust Lion running backs because I'm still hurt from carry on. However, even Calvin Ridley, if he ends up playing again, he was really, really good for his first few years. He looked like he would be the number one on this list as well. But, all three of those guys, and even Devontae Smith had a really good rookie season. So there's still opportunity knocking for him as well.
I don't like either of their quarterback situations. So that's why I would go Swift. But,
Yeah, Swift seems like he, with the current situation the Lions are in, with all the catches he's going to get, he still seems like he's going to be, and he's young as hell too. There's still plenty of time for him. So let's go ahead and go to 1.8. And A.J. Brown another Sean selection. I believe you had 2 so far.
Same draft as...
There's some fun names in this.
Oh, that was the N'Keal Harry draft. Wow, I really saved my ass.
Yeah, I guess you kind of covered your bases there, didn't you? Yeah, A.J. Brown was excellent and still is excellent. And I still think that, we may not have seen the best, of A.J. Brown at this point, because it's basically a few years of him getting hurt, getting banged up, and, splitting targets with other people on the team. And now it seems like he's got a stranglehold on that passing attack. Robert Woods is still going to be, there and involved, but maybe not. Yeah. Maybe not, quite to the extent of
assuming AJ
being
Brown
a 1B
on the team when we start the year.
That's another thing too. There's a contract dispute there, but he's a really good player, and there's just nothing better, honestly, in this list right now. Realistically, Courtland Sutton could be, a guy that comes up and takes the spot, but right now, no.
I love the quarterback fit now, so we'll see.
It's looking up for Courtland Sutton for sure. Ruggs, don't need to talk about it. John Ross, don't need to talk about it. Corey Coleman, surprisingly the awful bust that I forgot about entirely while I was making this list, so I thought that was fun. Rashad, terrible. Brandon Cooks is a close second, in my opinion.
I actually think I would have gone. I have A.J. Brown. I would have gone with Cooks just because he's on the field and he's consistent. He's got more proven track record. But because A.J. Brown has had a lot of injuries already in his career, so he's missed a good amount of time.
Yeah, that was the one I was kind of debating with in my head, because Cooks, he's been so solid over such a decent amount of time at this point. But he was my pick in 2014, I believe. And I think I traded him away pretty soon after that, but I probably shouldn't have, because he's been one of the better players over the last decade or so. So let's go to 1.9. And this is Scavelli is the king of the late round running backs. You'll find this out, or not late round, but late first running backs. Nick Chubb he took at 1.9, and he absolutely has completely blown that draft pick out of the water as far as return on value. There's also some really fun names in this one as well.
I don't even remember one of these guys.
Who is it? Paul Perkins? Yeah. So Paul Perkins was an Alex Morales draft pick, as you might imagine, and that was in 2015 or 2014, 2015. And he really believed in him, and it just didn't quite work out. And I've kind of noticed too that this is, other than Chubb being pretty good, and maybe Eddie Lacy with a few years, this has been
Eddie Lacy burned bright for a few years.
He had his moments for sure.
He got real thick.
But this is this area of the draft for running backs does not usually work out.
Yeah.
I mean, TJ Yeldon, Paul Perkins, Darrell Henderson, Trey Sermon has not worked out. So maybe in recent years, the
wide receivers don't look much better. Juju will more than likely have a pretty good bounce back year.
And this, truthfully, Denzel Mims could have been T. Higgins, but he flip-flopped the picks and so technically he believed in Denzel more, whoever you take first, as opposed to one of those two. But, none of these guys are super impressive towards the bottom of the list here. Juju's, he's been serviceable. Definitely was great for that 1 year. Let's go to 110. And we got Derrick Henry by Scavelli again. So he's basically he had Nick Chubb and Derrick Henry within roughly the same time frame as far as drafting as one year after another. So Scavelli is just slaughtered late round running backs. Absolutely great job. Jay Cutler, I do remember that one. That was a Vincent Patrignani pick in our first draft. And then after that, there's a whole lot of nothing. It's been better recently, I think. But after Carry On, I think anything before Carry On, though, is not worth talking about, except for maybe Devontae for those few years. Yeah, he was definitely, I think 3 or 4 years, he was pretty quality. So, but Derrick Henry, clearly the best running back out of this, not even close. But T. Higgins looks good. Rashad looks good. Mm-hmm. Fant, maybe we'll see the best of him. I don't know. And just poor guys.
Cordero Patterson looks good.
Yeah, that was one of my draft picks, actually. That was my 1.10 in 2012, I think, 2013 or 12.
That's probably a fun history to go through on Sleeper of the
Cordero Patterson actually was traded for Jalen Strong straight up right after the draft because I was so disgusted with him. I was like, I didn't know why I made the pick, so I traded with Adam, and I got Jalen Strong, who was much better, clearly. It actually looks like I lost that trade in hindsight. I thought it was going to be a net nothing. Turned out to be a loss, so who knew? So let's go to second-round picks, and I didn't go over all of them because this, frankly, would just take too much time and too much effort to go through every pick. Ooh. But I did find the best ones from every class. So the first one, Justin Jefferson. I mean, at 2-1, it just doesn't add up. Like
that's fucking Dan.
Yeah, Dan absolutely slaughtered that pick, and I still remember the devastation because I wanted him so bad at 2-2, and I ended up with fucking Jalen Reagor. And so it's like, but I should have just traded up. I should have believed in my gut. I really wanted Jefferson, and I could not get him because Dan made the right pick. So yeah, at 2-1, he was far and away the best option, and he's going to be a stud for the next 6 years at least.
That's how you know Dan's an Eagles fan. He's like, oh, the Eagles took a receiver?
I'm not taking him.
Pass.
Yeah, he chose against it. Yeah, Jefferson, complete stud. No, don't even need to debate who's the best at that one. 2.2, I took Devontae Adams, I believe in 2013 or 14, and that was the same draft I got DeAndre Hopkins in, and Travis Kelce. So that was a great draft for me. However, I proceeded to trade Devontae Adams away for a first and a third round pick to Tibbs, I believe. Then I got him back, and then I traded him away again. So it's been quite a bit of a roller coaster between me and Devontae Adams. But 2.2, you can't argue with the value at all there. 2.3 was a little bit weird. There were a few options I could have gone with, but I felt like Michael Thomas, given his success when he has played, was well worth him being the best 2.3 pick. I mean, he was literally the wide receiver 1 for probably 2 or 3 years, as far as dynasty value. People wanted him so bad. It's just fallen off because of whatever the hell is going on.
Do you remember who the other guy was at 2-3?
I can't off the top of my head, but there were a couple of close-ish options, but not anything, like holy shit, this is the best 2-3 pick. 2.4 was tough because there were not a lot of great selections.
It looks that way.
There was not anything that it was like, wow, this is so much better than the other ones. I just think Michael Pittman, he's played well for a couple of years now, and then is now getting a better quarterback. He seems like the best 2.4 currently. And I do remember some other ones from 2.4 because a couple of them were mine. Leonte Carew on this list. There was also a couple other really bad ones that I can't even. They're not good. I believe Joe Williams for me as well was another fun one. He never played it down in the NFL. I don't think.
By the Niners?
He sure was in the 4th or 5th round, and I really believed in it for some reason.
I mean, dynasty circles were hyped for Joe Williams.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. And Alvin Kamara at 2.5 was a slam dunk. There wasn't
be the best pick in dynasty history.
I would argue there's one lower that, just when you consider the overall makeup of the league and just how good he is. But I think that's more of a projection as opposed to this guy's done it. So Alvin Kamara at 2.5 for Dustin is an absolute steal, right? So actually 2.6 was not that impressive. I did some research, but Robert Woods is fine.
Love you, Bobby Trees.
Yeah, Bobby Trees, and that was a Tibbs pick, so credit to Tibbs for that one. I remember avoiding Bobby Trees like the plague in that draft. I didn't want him at all, and then it turned out that I ended up getting him in a trade, and I was very happy with it because he was a throw-in at the time, I think.
Yeah, that was my only mistake in the Saquon trade.
That was the Saquon trade. That's right. He was kind of a throw-in.
Yep.
So Bobby Trees, he's not a bad player at all. He's been very serviceable over the last 4 years. So 2.7, honestly, I hate to put Brandon Ayuk in there because he's one of my guys, and I feel like it's like a homer pick. But if you look at the list, there's not a lot there. It's 2.7 is kind of a wasteland. I believe some of the other ones were like Evan Ingram and I can't remember off the top of my head, but there was a couple of the classic Tibbs and Alex receiver busts in this spot as well. So I think 2.7 Ayuk as of right now seems like the best. I guess I'll go homer again because I took Allen Robinson at 2.8. Had a couple of great years, a couple of what the fuck years. But 2.8, how much more can you ask for, I guess, at this point?
Okay. Now he's on a great offense.
Hopefully it picks back up again this year. I believe Scavelli has him after I got rid of him. He spent a lot of good years on the blowouts. 2.9, this might be one of the better ones.
This is pretty good.
This is just Justin taking it and running with it. And you'll see a trend in future slides here with Justin hitting on receivers. He's done a very good job in these middle rounds. Godwin's been a stud, and he's going to be a stud as long as he's on the field, basically, especially with Brady. So now 2.10 was a wasteland. absolute wasteland.
Yeah.
JHIE truly was the best player, in my opinion.
I'm sure he won people a lot of weeks when he was like peaking.
Yeah, he had weeks where he was RB1 for sure, like RB1 level talent. Like he was a quality back. It just didn't last long because his knees were so bad.
They were shot.
Because he had 2 knee reconstruction surgeries in college on both of his ACLs. So like everybody knew it wasn't going to last long, and it really didn't. But for those couple of years, it was fun. So I believe that was a Scavelli pick for the record. So that was a good one there. Let's go to the third. Now here's some great names on this list. Now James Conner at 3-2 or 3-1. I feel like a lot of people really liked that trade or like that pick at the time. He was sitting behind Le'Veon, but we all knew kind of he had some juice and some talent. Mm-hmm. So to see it kind of come to fruition was a slow process for Vince, but it worked out. So that's a great 3rd round pick. And at the beginning, it really kind of looked like a handcuff, even though he didn't have Le'Veon. It's like, well, it could be a nice high quality backup. And I think we tend to overlook those in our drafts where, not this is the best example, but Chuba Hubbard, I think went end of the 3rd last year. He was the direct backup, for McCaffrey. And yes, it didn't work out for him. He wasn't that great, but just to have a guy that gets carries in Dynasty in the 3rd round is so important. Big like win. Just anybody, if you can get anyone that just shows up, and that's a great thing. So James Conner is a good pick. Here's another Justin one that I was alluding to earlier. Deontay Johnson at 3-2 was a great pick. I honestly was not a big fan of Deontay coming out, and he totally blew me away. I was wrong. There's just no, and actually the next guy too, Terry McLaurin, I was wrong on both of them. I didn't really see either one of them becoming what they ended up becoming. And Cooper Kupp at 3-4 is James. This is a James pick, and absolute steal, absolute complete slam dunk steal.
That might be better than the Kamara pick.
Yeah, that's why I was kind of like, hey, wait till you see some of these. There's some that have some serious implications.
3-6 is pretty good too.
3-6 does not suck. 3-5 has been great. Honestly, Deshaun Watson is. I mean, now that he's back too, is just gravy. He was a great 3-5 pick. Tyler Lockett was a sneaky 3-7 by Scavelli. I was not a fan of him coming out either. So maybe I should start listening to other people in 3rd round. Perhaps I don't know.
The 3rd round might be better than the 2nd round best picks.
It's debatable because I guess until you get to 3 and 3-9, it's just because they're so bad. Dude, Chris Conley was the best 3-9. I promise you. Like, there's nobody better. So basically, who has 3-9 this year is me. Look, whoever has 3-9, you might as well just trade it away because it's just not worth it. You can get a replacement level player. And then while Sean's looking up who has 3-9, it might even be me. No, it might be Dan actually. Didn't he lose in the championship game?
Dustin,
get rid of it.
Congratulations, Dustin. That's your bust.
Who's 3-8? Can you pull that up real quick? Because that hasn't worked out either. Jimmy Garoppolo is the best.
That's you.
Oh shit! I got to get rid of that. All right, so those 2 guys stunk. And then Kenny Galladay was my 3-10. He was trash last year, but really was a quality 3-10 for the 2 years prior to that. So I'm not too upset with that.
Dustin with 3 3rd-round picks this year.
Yeah.
There you go. There's gold out there, Dustin.
Jimmy Garoppolo and Chris Conley are to be had. You never know. Mm-hmm. And here's the 4th round. Now, there's some really interesting names in here, and let me preface this by saying that there's some 4th round picks because we've only had, I think, 3 or 4 years of 4th round picks to date. There's not going to be a big history. So some of these are just like, this is literally the best guy we've got.
This is what we got.
And like a few of them are like, all right, I'm sorry, but this is the best player we have.
And all quarterbacks.
But let's focus on 4-1. If you have 4-1 this year, you better keep that pick because there's been some. I think you're at a 50% hit rate right now at 4-1. You got Lamar, Tibbs. Don't trade it away. That's where the value falls apparently. Antonio Gibson was a Dan pick, a great pick, and anytime you can get any value out of a 4th round running back, congratulations. And he crushed that one. And then Lamar, quarterbacks always seem to fall, and that's why you see a lot of quarterbacks here. But let's look at 4-10. This is the one I was getting at. 4-10 and 4-5.
It's pretty great.
Those picks are team-changing picks in the 4th round. If there's this, just like, let's go back to Alex taking Trevor Lawrence at 1-6. Look what is available to you later. Lamar Jackson. Even Baker Mayfield, he kind of stinks, but he's serviceable. He's like not any worse than freaking Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, like Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen, and Justin Herbert, and Daniel Jones was Alex's pick at 48. I mean, like it's just amazing what you can get later on if you kind of wait on quarterback.
Yeah, outside of Alex, where the rest of us are just assholes. We just push quarterback like out of the way the entire draft.
And frankly, like even last year when we both took Trey Lance and Justin Fields, the only reason that they went where they did was strictly athleticism. I think. I mean, I don't think if they were kind of like pocket. I mean, Lamar seems to be the outlier because Lamar, nobody really thought he was going to be much of a passer. I don't think coming out. I mean, he was literally like, "Here's your running back." And I think we may have just overlooked him.
Well, according to some, he's a wide receiver. So,
dude, who the fuck knows? But Lamar, he was a guy that people had questions about. Whereas I think Lance and Fields were both pretty respected prospects and maybe deserved the extra draft capital based on the fact that they could throw and pass. So we'll see how that ends up working out. But it's obvious that if you need a quarterback, it might be worth waiting for because there's some good ones out there later on usually. Maybe not this year because the quarterback class is so bad and we'll probably touch on that later.
Trash.
However, there are some really interesting options later on over the course of the history. Some of these aren't even worth talking about, so we'll just move on. So here's the scorecard I came up with. So I personally excluded my 4th round picks because I had a couple on there where that was Harrison Bryant, Preston Williams. Like to me, those guys just don't. I can't rank those guys as best picks because they're just not. They're who the best was so far in 4 years. So I excluded my 4th round picks and left everybody else's. So it seems like the first round has been, generally speaking, dominated by 3 guys. It's been Tibbs, yourself, and Scavelli. Scavelli had Nick Chubb and Derrick Henry. You had A.J. Brown and DJ Moore. And then Tibbs had Joe Mixon and Odell Beckham. So those, I think there were a lot of other teams with 1, but those would seem to be the teams that turned around the most value in first round. And then I stood alone with 3 in the second round. That was Devontae Adams. That was Allen Robinson. And I cannot remember. I can't remember the last one off the top of my head. Devontae Adams, Allen Robinson. I can go back a couple of slides. Hold on. Please hold. Oh, I gave myself Brandon Ayuk. That's soft. Maybe it's not 3.
Boo.
That was a soft one. I'll cut you all some slack on that one. All right.
Dan wins.
And then the 3rd and 4th round. Dan seems to be slaughtering the 4th round. He's had the most. So if you knock mine down to 5, Dan has been the best overall drafter as far as like pick selection.
Yeah. Hitting big.
Yeah, he's definitely made his money. And let's go to the all-time bust first round.
Hell
and this
yeah,
is what people
brother.
This is what people are here for. This is so fun. So N'Keal Harry just didn't work out. And it's okay.
Hey,
is he on the block?
I am not the only person that took him at 1-1 in Dynasty League.
There are other people that did it.
Fine.
There were other people that did it.
It's fine. It's the apostrophe, really. That was the difference maker.
Frankly, yeah. If he didn't have the apostrophe, it was just straight up N'Keal or N'Keal or whatever it is.
Oh hell
no. I wouldn't have been the same. Speaking of potential apostrophes, Laquan Treadwell. That was nobody saw that coming. Literally nobody. Like the NFL draft, he was drafted 14th overall, I believe. Everybody truly thought he was going to be a stud, and I don't know what happened. He just didn't work out. I don't know what it is. Like, and he's kind of, I think he was with the Jags this past year or the Atlanta or something, and I saw his name pop up on a couple of touchdowns. I was like, he's alive? Like he's still out there? And he's still kicking. So I don't know.
Must still be really athletic if he keeps making teams.
I just don't. It's just the potential people keep chasing, I guess. But guys,
a shitty human being.
It stinks. But he had the talent coming out, so I understand the move. Kevin White, talk about a bust. Kevin White was a huge bust, and that's another one where I think he was in a draft. I can't remember who the first receiver taken was, but the drop off between him and whoever or that guy that was drafted, and then White was just monumental. It was incredible. Bishop Sankey, we talked about a little bit earlier. He was the consensus RB1 in that draft. He somehow fell to 4 because that was the draft with Sammy Watkins, Mike Evans, Odell Beckham. Actually, he was
all the receivers that Alex didn't draft.
Correct. So all those actually Odell went at 7. Alex ended up taking Kelvin Benjamin at 3, and he took Jordan Matthews ahead of them as well. So Alex missed on all of those excellent receivers, and instead took those 2 players. And Bishop Sankey kind of was nestled in there. And Scavelli's like, well, I'll take the value because that's what Scavelli does. And it just didn't work this time. It's okay. Justin Black. Now this could have easily been Marcus Wheaton.
Another shithead.
This could have easily been Marcus Wheaton. But Justin Blackman never played. So I gave him the bust category here. I didn't give myself the bust.
I think he played a couple games his rookie year.
And then he may have played a quarter of a season. Yeah, I don't remember anything. I don't remember him making any plays at any time.
Giant dumbass.
Yeah, he stinks. OJ Howard at 1.7 is a pretty big bust. When you consider the talent and the fact that he was drafted in the first round, it's rough. It's a rough 1.7 pick for sure.
Probably a reach, but I think everybody agreed that he was very talented.
He was the consensus number 1 tight end for sure.
Yeah.
And he I feel like he was a little bit of that precursor to Kyle Pitts where it's like, wow, this guy's athletic. Wow, this guy can block. Like he can do stuff, but he never had the production. And he just never has had it in the NFL. So maybe it's just never going to happen. But now he's with the Bills. I don't even know whose team he's on. Maybe Tibbs's. I can't remember. Corey Coleman, a huge bust. I kind of forgotten about bust. He did nothing. He's been bounced around.
Just forgettable. He's not even like a funny bust. He's just forgettable.
So he's like that's the worst kind of bust, honestly. Yeah. The ones that like Paul Perkins is another one. Like he's funny, but like nobody remembers him.
Yeah, that's a rare miss by Dan too.
Yeah, Dan usually does, and I think the back end of the first is hard, man, because there's always those tweeners where it's like, okay, he's not a stud. He got drafted in like the 2nd or 3rd round, and it's very situation based. So Corey Coleman getting passes from who the hell was throwing him passes at this time? Could have been anyone. Jason Campbell. It could have been anybody. I have no idea. It
was for who?
For Cleveland.
Cleveland?
Probably in 2013 or 14.
Brandon Whedon?
It could have very well been. It could have been Johnny Manziel. I don't remember.
That's true.
So it's hard to like really with these late picks. It's just tough to hit them right. And then Kerryon Johnson just
we're not even going to talk about Paul Perkins.
He's not worth talking about. Alex just got it. I remember it was Christian loved Paul Perkins for just really no reason. I don't know why. He saw him at UCLA at like one game. He's like, I love Paul Perkins. And then I think Alex heard him say that. He's like, well, I love Paul Perkins. And then that's how that happened. So I don't know. I don't think he really did anything in the NFL. And then Kerryon definitely had college production. He's the all-time leading rushing guy for the SEC of all time, and just could not put it together in the NFL. Had some injuries. This poor guy couldn't get it done.
Yeah, you always seemed really sad about that one.
I thought he was so good, and there's a lot of people that the Carry On My Wayward Son on some other podcasts. They all love them. And I only did 2 rounds for the all-time bust because the 3rd round, like, come on, like, I mean, everybody busts, but this is
about Nick Toon.
There are some incredible names in the 2nd round. Incredible names. Roberto Aguayo somehow went in the 2nd round. So those are, I mean, Tyler Wilson. I know it's a sore subject for you, but that's a terrible pick as well. Tyler,
I didn't.
He never even. I don't think he made it out of training camp.
Nope.
Some other fun ones too. Ronnie Hillman literally did nothing in his career. Aaron Dobson literally did nothing in his career. Dorial Green-Beckham, I don't think ever played. Honestly, I have no idea what happened to him. But my all-time favorite, honestly, and if I was gonna name that bust today, it would have been this guy. It's Greg Childs. Is my favorite.
I don't even remember. Okay, you're talking about the Giants.
He was not. He was drafted by the Vikings in the later rounds. I believe it was like the 5th to 7th round time. Yeah. But he tore both of his ACLs or something, like some just horrific injury in training camp and never played again. And I just felt terrible for James because he really believed in Greg Childs and it just didn't work. Wow. So that was truly unfortunate for him. And then Nick Toon, I think, was truly just drafted for his name and literally never played for whatever reason. Hakeem Butler is infamous in the bust category because he was basically traded 1-for-1 for Tyreek Hill. That was the Tyreek Hill trade pick. So that is, he has his own special spot in hell. But Cody Latimer for Scavelli literally is just busty. And then
Ooh, ASJ.
ASJ is kind of a forgotten about bust. I hated to put him in here because he's a tight end and they always bust.
Yeah.
And it's 210, but like he was probably the worst pick out of the grouping. So so there's your second round all-time busts. And we didn't do third and fourth round because you don't want to see that. There's just too many jackasses. But I'll say that 3-1 was really my favorite bust of all time. It was when I smokescreened Alex into taking Kevin Norwood. I basically told him that Kevin Norwood was like one of my favorite receivers, and I think he just truly believed me. And I would pick 3-2. He took him one pick ahead of me to basically beat me to him, and it was just a giant smokescreen the whole time. He was garbage.
Who'd you take at 3-2?
I have no clue. I got to look at it. We have to go back to the archives. But it couldn't have been much better, to be honest, because the 3-2 is a giant pit of garbage, too. So, okay, so here's a fun part of the podcast. So we're going to do a 2022 rookie mock draft, and we're going to use the landing spots from Charlie Campbell's mock draft. I think it was from this week, so it's pretty recent. So Sean is going to pick 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9, and I'm going to do 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So I'm going to pull up Sleeper, and we'll do a little mock draft challenge, if you will. And, you know, hopefully this provides some sort of insight. You know, it's hard because, I mean, luckily Sean's not in the first round, so he doesn't have any intel, I guess, into what he's doing. I have to be a little bit careful with what I'm doing, but I'm also not picking for myself, so Sean will be picking for me. So give me 1 second while I get this loaded up. And Sleeper is dead, apparently. Let's try that again. But yes, these are Charlie Campbell's mocks, and if you're not familiar with Charlie Campbell, he was a Pewter Report draft writer before Scavelli and I had arrived, and now he is the lead draft analyst for WalterFootball.com. And he's been there for probably close to a decade at this point. He's been pretty much the go-to guy for a lot of people in the draft world, and he has a lot of connections as well. So I'm a big fan of his work, and I think he'll be a good one to follow along as far as landing spots. So I am going to share this other screen. This is going to be a little bit challenging because I don't know if I could pull up all this on the same screen. However, let's see. Can I do 3 screens at the same time? This is not my best production work, but we're going to work with it. Can I do them all? I cannot. So I'm going to have to pull up on a separate screen my friend Sean so we can see the landing spots. So please hold with us for 1 second. And 1-1 is obviously Tibbs. So Tibbs is going to be your go-to guy. So we'll have this on this screen, Sean, we'll have the actual draft board. We're only doing the first round. And then on our other screen that's off screen right now will be the landing spots. So just in case you missed some of the landing spots, some of the top guys, we'll put Tibbs on the clock at 1-1, and Sean's going to be picking for him. Some of the top guys had some interesting landing spots. You had Breece Hall going to the Patriots. You had Drake London going to the Jets. Garrett Wilson's going to the Saints. Chris Olave to the Packers. Kenneth Walker is not on this list apparently for whatever reason. Let's just give him a landing spot and say Kenneth Walker goes. What do you say? Texans. That seems fair. So Kenneth Walker to the Texans. And this is Tibbs' pick. Tibbs is in full rebuild mode. He doesn't have a lot in the way of quality receivers. He's got Elijah Mitchell. He's got some tight ends. He's got Dawson Knox. He's got Dalton Schultz. He's got some guys at that position. But none of those are really in discussion here at 1-1 for Tibbs. It's kind of a best player available situation. But with Breece Hall going to the Patriots in this mock, you know, that's a crowded backfield. And that's definitely something I could see happening, honestly, in the real draft. That, like, I could see Bill just saying, fuck it, we'll take another one. And, you know, Breece Hall, his value, dynasty-wise, probably takes a hit. So the top 2 running backs per se would be Kenneth Walker and Breece Hall. Kenneth Walker going to the Texans, Breece Hall going to the Patriots. Sean, who is the pick for Tibbs?
I think when you're in full rebuild mode, I don't think you'd go running back to start. I think when you have Elijah Mitchell, maybe not. You know, you have something. Yeah. I just see a landing spot on there that's just
screaming to you,
screaming to me. I'm going to give him Chris Olave.
Wow, Chris Olave at 1-1
opportunity.
Truly has a incredible opportunity there with Aaron Rodgers, and truthfully, nobody really on the depth chart. He pretty much has it himself.
Definitely not the most talented player on this list, but that's not always the most important thing.
Chris Olave had a great combine, first of all. Excellent combine. Really blew people away, to be honest with you. He was one of the guys that people that were concerned about his long speed and then dropped like a 4.38 or something crazy. And he's been a good receiver. He's a little bit older than some other receivers because he's a senior. But he's a quality player, and if he lands in a spot like the Packers, he could easily go this high in the draft. And at 1-2, I believe we have Alex Morales. Am I correct when I say that? I might need you to pull up the actual draft board on Sleeper just to confirm. I'm not sure how updated this is. I'm pretty sure Alex has 1-2 and 1-3, if I'm not mistaken.
He does.
Okay, so I will take Alex's second pick, or first round pick. I'm sorry for the first one. So it's 1.2. Alex is in a position where he has some receivers. I don't think he has truly that number one guy. Maybe T. Higgins is kind of evolving into that at this point, but he's still the number 2 on his own team. Kind of same can be said about Jerry Jeudy. Michael Pittman's probably his best guy at this point. So he's got receivers. He can fill out a receiver roster. He doesn't have running backs. He doesn't. And he's got Swift, and that's fine. And I think if he wants to actually see himself, getting into contention soon, he's going to need to get some running backs. And it seems like I've heard he's shopped DeAndre Swift. I was told at the wedding that DeAndre Swift was on the block. I saw multiple trade offers being thrown around.
Debauchery.
And I'm not sure, if DeAndre Swift is truly on the block, are we going back again into the rebuild? Is that something that we're just diving back into? And if that's the case, I can't take a running back. I can't take a running back for him. So
you're just adding logic into something that just probably has.
I don't know.
Logic.
If Alex is truly pushing for more draft picks and the future again, it doesn't make sense to draft Kenneth Walker because Kenneth Walker truly has the best landing spot in the scenario to the Texans. And yep. I don't think you can draft Breece Hall over him based on landing spot. I don't think you can. Even though Breece Hall he's the younger and better player by most people's account, I think you have to go with Kenneth Walker if you're a team that's trying to contend because he's almost 23 years old. Like you almost have to. So in this scenario, I really like taking a receiver for Alex. So I will go with, and let me rephrase some of these landing spots. We have Treylon Burks to the Lions. Olave was taken, Packers. Garrett Wilson to the Saints, and Drake London to the Jets. I think this comes down to London and Wilson. And the Jets just don't have a great fit for Dynasty right now. I think he's a great fit for the Jets. I don't think he's going to be great in Dynasty right out the gate, unless he just blows me away with that landing spot. I'm a little concerned. I think Garrett Wilson has the best chance to succeed early and has a bunch of talent too to go with it. So I'm going to go Garrett Wilson for Alex here at 1-2. And then Alex is going to be up again at 1-3, and then I'm going to have my friend Sean do that one. So I bet a lot of, I guess these are all reaches according to Sleeper. I bet you that nobody saw this coming with no running back going off the board so far, because the landing spots really do change things. They really do. Breece Hall, if he had gone to the Texans, probably be off the board by now. But however, we have Kenneth Walker, Texans, Breece Hall, Patriots. Actually, I'm going to throw this screen up for the drafters at home so they can see. So here's some of the landing spots Charlie Campbell actually came up with. Obviously off the board, Wilson and Olave. So both the Ohio State receivers, both off the board, and everybody else is left. And these are Charlie Campbell's latest mock draft. Maybe not the latest. I might probably updated it again. However, this is the most recent one. So, Sean, what are you thinking here at 1-3 for Alex? We got Garrett Wilson in the fold.
I think the easy thing is to assume that Alex is going to go one wide receiver, one running back. Keep it.
That seems pretty kosher.
It seems like something a normal person would do. So knowing that, I'm going to give him Treylon Burks because that just seems like something Alex would do.
I can't really argue with it. It seems like Alex is always a contrarian when it comes to the draft. And I think he's set on building through receivers. And I think, which honestly is not a bad idea. It's basically how I built my team into being a perennial playoff team. It's just you have to have depth at receiver.
It's better than building through first-round quarterback.
It is definitely. And first-round O.J. Howards and Max Williams in tight ends. So I understand it. I get the pick. It's just amazing that Breece Hall is now out of the top 4, or he's going to be out of the top 3. He's pretty much at 4 at this point. So let's see. Who picks next? Can you give me a quick hitter on who's next?
Justin, finding value.
And man, is this a Justin just walking into... Man, they don't like any of these picks. Justin has now walked into whatever running back he wants, which could very well be the selection, or Drake London, who I think in this mock draft got top 10 draft capital with the Jets at 10. So you're talking about a guy who went very high in the draft.
Giving Zach Wilson every opportunity to succeed here.
And that's the only thing that throws me off is Zach Wilson. Like, I don't know. And with all the other guys they got there, they have Elijah Moore. There's going to be targets for Carter out of the backfield. I believe they signed Berrios back, so he's kind of another slot guy. They still have Corey Davis.
Pretty solid offensive line. It got better all year.
And they're probably going to draft another one. So I like the potential.
Their defense stinks, so they're going to have to put up points.
Correct. They do stink. I like the potential, but I don't know if, this is Justin we're talking about here. Justin loves value as well. Justin likes to take the guys that slip, it seems like. So I feel that the guy that's obviously slipping despite the landing spot is Breece Hall. He's the number 1 back. I think everybody agrees there. He is a Patriots guy, which I think would align with Justin's overall fandom. I think that would work. And just the makeup of his team, where he won't need Breece Hall to start right away either. He can wait it out if it's, Damian Harris leaves in free agency and it's him and Ramondre and they get split touches. Like, I think he'd be okay with that. Kenneth Walker with the Texans will have more of an immediate impact, but is he the better player is the question. So it could be either one of them, but I'm going Breece Hall because I think the value is right for Justin here at 4. I would love to go back to the draft that we did last year, the rookie mock, to see how accurate that was.
See how we did.
I'm a little concerned because I don't think we did that well. When Alex is involved in the first round, anything's possible, right? It's all hit or miss. So we have, they didn't even like Breece Hall. I think they're just going to I'm going to mute this. This is pissing me off.
I love this guy.
I know he at least he's interested.
Wow.
We have one person watching out there. I don't know who it is, but thank you for watching. We're 51 minutes in. So let's see. Let's bring back up this screen.
Tibbs is going to be at 1-5.
So Tibbs's second pick, he had Olave at the first, and you have to think that Tibbs, he's still in full rebuild. There's Drake London is still there. I think, despite the landing spot, Drake London probably is the best talent that's left on the board. You could argue that Kenneth Walker might be the best talent at running back at this point, but I don't know if Tibbs needs a running back that's a little bit older at this point. I think he's still too far away, and London has better upside going forward, and he's younger. So I'm going with Drake London here for Tibbs because.
Wow, thank you for drafting for me.
I think it's was that you? Maybe I jumped ahead. Okay,
I'm
fine.
taking the odds, right?
Then, yeah, you are. I totally jumped you there. Okay, so then why don't you do 6 and 7?
Well, fine.
That was my bad.
Scavelli at 1-6.
I forgot Scavelli saw as a first round pick. Maybe not by the time we get there.
That's true. That's very true.
Let's see. What was I thinking? Drake London. Okay, so Scavelli at 6.
I'm trying to think of what his roster kind of looks like right now. He's got
He's got Russell Wilson. He's got Allen Robinson. He has he has a lot of older receivers.
Derrick
Henry. He has Aaron Jones. He has a decent tight end, I believe. You might want to just go to his roster.
So
he's got guys. He's got guys, and he
obviously anytime you lose Derrick Henry, your team is just gonna suffer.
Mm-hmm.
But his team really struggled without that other running back. So I think this is probably where Kenneth Walker goes.
I tend to agree with that because
it seems like a Scavelli pick.
It's the falling value. It's a good landing spot. I mean, you can call Texans what you want as far as landing spot.
It's called opportunity.
It's the opportunity, right? And sometimes you just got to go with the carries.
I love the opportunity to compete against Rex Burkhead.
And they signed some other garbage running back.
Marlon Mack.
Yes. So I mean, like there are people there, and honestly, it could be.
Are they?
But here's the thing: is like, are they going to go Patriots, where it's just we'll use all of them?
100%.
So then it doesn't look that good. Walker doesn't look that good.
Yeah, but
talent. It's the upside, right? It's all about we're chasing upside, especially when we're at 6. We're not getting a top guy.
You got to give Davis Mills an elite running back or like a top.
Give him something to work with, right?
Absolutely, he's already a top tier quarterback, so you got to pair him.
That's why I traded 4th round pick for him.
That's right.
You trade 4th round picks for top tier quarterbacks. That's what you do.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dustin. So yes, I think Kenneth Walker isn't a bad pick. Is that what we're going with?
Yeah.
Okay, Kenneth Walker to Scavelli at 6, and we have to always keep in mind with Scavelli, what does he look for? He looks for value, and this is the value, in my opinion. So I agree with this selection. I'm going to give you 1-7 as well because I jacked that up.
It's perfect because I've already got the pick. This is just lined up beautifully with what was already posted in Sleeper about Dustin just absolutely whiffing on receiver.
Okay.
In the first round. I love that this player is going to the Cardinals. I think it's beautiful because the Cardinals really know how to just F up receivers other than DeAndre Hopkins. They draft them in the 2nd round every year and they miss every time. Andy Isabella. They don't know how to use Rondell Moore. But this is perfect because they won't know how to use Jamison Williams either, but Dustin's going to take it anyway because he needs that pick.
And frankly, if Jamison Williams gets the 1st round draft capital, he's going to go high in our draft. It's just that simple. Yep. Unless you're Brandon Ayuk and fall to the 2nd round somehow. You're going to go high. And somehow Justin Jefferson with 1st round draft capital did not go in the 1st round in our draft.
That's true.
That blows me away. But anywho, so we're going to go with Jamison Williams for our good friend Dustin. And that really does feel like a Dustin pick. Now he has both Devontae Smith and Jamison Williams. And if there's any more Alabama receivers, he has Calvin Ridley. He has all these Alabama receivers. Maybe you just got to go back and trade for Julio Jones now. I don't know who's left for him. So let's do Jamison Williams. And I am at 1-8, which I believe is Tibbs's pick, if I'm not mistaken. Another Tibbs pick. I don't know if you could look that up for me. It says Tibbs, but I don't know if I believe it.
It is, yeah.
Okay.
It was your pick originally.
Okay, that makes sense because I gave him that one, I believe, in the Devontae deal. So Tibbs, again, already has Olave and London in the fold. And this is where it gets a little interesting as far as running backs because, truthfully, there's 2 good ones that everybody kind of knows and loves, right? It's Walker, it's Breece Hall, and then Spiller is kind of the 3rd one. Mm-hmm. Spiller in this mock is going to the Eagles. Not a great landing spot.
Ew.
They don't know how to use Miles Sanders, right? So how do you expect them to use Spiller, right?
This guy doing the mock obviously doesn't know that Kenny Gainwell is the best running back on that roster.
Hey, maybe he's looking as it more of a Miles Sanders, replacement for next year. I don't know. Other running back options, Zamir White is on a Bills pick, and
that'll move him up the board.
Frankly, yeah, I mean, yes, it will move him up the board. That's a sneeze. I apologize for that. But I don't really think any of the value lines up with running back here at the 1-8. And I think you kind of have to shoot for the stars a little bit here as far as a receiver if you're going to do that. I think there's a couple of guys that you could consider. I think one of them would be Christian Watson to the Bills. Christian Watson is a stupid athlete. He's literally tested bonkers, basically, at every possible method. He played great with Trey Lance last year, or the year before, I should say. There's guys also that you could consider. Jahan Dotson to the Colts, I think, is a sneaky landing spot. I mean, I'm not big on these smaller, speedy receivers, but with Ty on the way out, Jahan Dotson could literally just fill that spot. It seems like a natural fit. So I think this comes down to one of those two for him, because I don't see the running backs really lining up from that standpoint. So let's go ahead and give him Jahan Dotson, just because I think the fit with Matt Ryan and the Colts being on the other side with pretty limited competition at that second receiver spot. There's not really a whole lot of guys on that team right now. No, Jahan Dotson for the Colts.
Oh, yeah.
I don't feel like there's a lot there. So I think he could really make that work. So let's give Tibbs Jahan Dotson. And it's going to be, I believe, my pick at 1-9. So I'm going to let you handle that.
It is you.
Look at that. 1-9. Absolutely. This is part of the Devontae Adams deal. I got this and Dan's 2023 first as well. So.
Give me a quick breakdown on what's left on your roster real quick.
On my roster?
Yeah.
I basically have everybody that I had heading into last season except for Devontae Adams. So I still have DeAndre. I still have Chubb. I still have Barkley, Kelsey, Brady, Lance. Some secondary receivers, Woods, Thielen, Galladay. So I have guys still, and I still feel like if I did choose to press forward with the team, I still think we would be in the mix. I'm not sure we'd win. But, at 1-9 here, we could kind of go in a lot of different directions. Really depends on what ends up happening. Maybe pre-draft trades happen. Maybe they don't. Whatever ends up happening with this team. The big thing that you really have to think about is lack of running back depth, because James Robinson is kind of taking a dump recently. And truthfully, the only two guys on my roster worth a damn at running back are Chubb and Barkley. So there's not a lot of guys there. So I think need-wise, running back would be the biggest need if you're looking at a competing situation. Enough about my team. You're making this pick, not me.
All right. I don't think, if you're in this position in the draft, I don't think you're going to love the running backs that are there.
It's not great.
But I think you're going to be compelled to fill a need on your team.
In a competing situation, for sure.
So I think we're going to go Zamir White over Spiller, just based off of landing spot and potential opportunity. But I don't love it. I don't think you would love making that pick, but I think you would do it just based off of a need to want to win now, if that's what you were going for.
Correct. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think, when you look at just who's left and what the landing spots kind of align up to be, Zamir White might actually be the guy that has the most potential for instant impact out of all the rest of the guys. Yep. So this last pick is Tibbs at 110. And Tibbs already has Jahan Dotson, Drake London, and Chris Olave in the fold. So he has quite a few guys at receiver. And we were kind of just talking about, what's really left. At this point, you could start thinking about guys like Christian Watson to the Bills, Alec Pierce to the Giants, Calvin Austin to the Falcons, Wan'Dale Robinson to the Chiefs as a potential Tyreek Hill replacement, Sky Moore to the Jags. And then a few of the running backs, Beatty to the Falcons, James Cook to the Broncos, Isaiah Spiller to the Eagles. Tibbs has already taken 3 receivers. Doesn't need tight end really at all. Doesn't need quarterback. I think you could look at receiver or running back at this point for him. So what are you thinking?
I think we just go for the clean sweep here.
I mean,
it's your pick, but...
Is it? Yeah, it is.
But we can debate this one together. We could just pretend we're one GM, I think.
We sure could.
I think, once again, I think Tibbs knows he's not competing this year. And with a very strong class coming in next year.
That's very true, too. And he's got 3 selections in that draft.
I think the move for Tibbs is just to go with best player available, and I don't think that's running back. I think it's going to be who do we have left? Do we have Watson off the board yet?
We don't have Watson.
I would say that's probably the biggest upside player left on the board just based off of the landing spot.
I would tend to agree with you. I think there's I think out of all the guys left, Watson definitely has the most upside. And if you're Tibbs' team you're looking for upside.
You need it.
You just like, especially at the end of the first one, you got your guys already, the guys that you really value. I think at the end of the first, you're always just looking for who could hit hard. If you're not going to get somebody that's going to play right away, so let's give him Christian Watson, and that would conclude the first round of this mock draft that we're doing here. So there it is. So let's go over some of these one more time. We got Olave at number 1 overall to Tibbs. We have Garrett Wilson, number 2 overall to Alex. We have Treylon Burks back-to-back with Alex, so he's got Wilson and Burks. Then Hall goes to Justin at 4, which seems like a great value, even though despite the landing spot. Then Drake London to Tibbs for his second selection. Kenneth Walker to Scavelli. Just seems like a good value pick for Scavelli and the build of his team. We also have Jamison Williams to Dustin, which truly does. You couldn't explain it any better. It just feels like his guy.
It's going to happen.
Let's talk it into existence.
It's in there.
It makes a lot of sense. And then Tibbs picking up a little bit of late value with Jahan Dotson and Christian Watson at 8 and 10. And then Zamir White to my team at 9 with the Bills. So pretty decent first round.
So, Eric, how do you feel about having Zamir White on your team? He's a Bill.
Listen, I love Bills.
You do
the problem is the Bills are too good nowadays. And I think we haven't discussed this enough on this podcast, that my fandom with the Bills lies with them being bad, right? Like, I love those Bills.
So you're saying there's a new team?
There is no new team. There will never be a replacement.
Okay.
It's all or nothing.
Not even the Jags?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
No. So what you have to understand is that the Bills just hold such a special place in my heart. Those teams and those fans and the time that Alex and I had there when they were that bad, that's the team I know and love. So to see them good, I'm happy for the fans more than anything. I'm really happy because finally those people cover themselves in ketchup and blew through tables, and they finally can see a team that makes it to the playoffs. I really hope they win the Super Bowl because I want to see the party. I want to see the party. Because it's going to be ridiculous.
They're going to
dude. Niagara Falls will be on fire somehow. They'll find a way to set everything.
They'll just put a table at the bottom of Niagara Falls and just jump off the top.
That would be incredible.
That'd be great.
Like some serious Houdini.
I mean, somebody's going to die, but
it would be for the good cause.
The views.
It'd be great for the cause.
Two for the crown.
So it's hard for me to really root for the Bills, but once they get to a certain point, of course, if the Bucs are playing the Bills, I'm rooting for the Bucs. But if the Bucs are out and the Bills are making their way through the AFC, I'm rooting for the Bills all day because I want to see those fans go nuts. But as far as having a Bill on my team, they're a good team now, so it makes sense to have Bills on your team. It used to be when they had Peerless Price and Stevie Johnson. Even Stevie, that's a bad example. Stevie Johnson was decent.
You got 2 Bills going at the end of the first round.
The TJ Grahams and Marquise Goodwins of the world. You didn't want any part to do with the Bills. No. You don't want any part of the Bills.
Robert Woods when he got drafted.
Yeah, I didn't want him either. And he didn't really do anything with the Bills until he got traded.
Marshawn Lynch when he got drafted.
You didn't want him.
CJ Spiller when he got drafted.
Exactly. So now it's turned into a situation where it's like, oh, wow, that's a good situation. I want to have Bills players because they're a quality organization at this point. That's the thing. And I think Tibbs has talked about this in previous discussions and in just talking. It's so important to draft players that go to good organizations. Because at the end of the day, the dysfunctional ones like the Browns, the Jets, the Jags, every year we take picks. Denzel Mims, Travis Etienne, Corey Coleman. You could take him and give him a shot. And I'm sure you saw that Roscoe's dragging his ass on the live podcast right now. However, when you draft these guys with bad organizations, with no quarterback situations, especially receivers, it's really hard to succeed.
Such a dart throw.
It's so hard. And when you get guys on good teams just even guys that are drafted late, Elijah Mitchell, Deebo Samuel is a 2nd or 3rd round NFL pick, Brandon Ayuk, the 49ers don't seem like a good spot. Back in the day, they didn't seem like a good spot, but they have a functioning organization, right? They have coaches that can put their guys into the right spots. It's so valuable. So, even Zamir White to the Bills doesn't feel great. He's on a good team. So it's okay, he'll at least function if he gets the ball. So I feel all right about that pick for me. So that's the first round. Let us know what you thought of the Charlie Campbell landing spot mock draft. we're not going to do 2 rounds because, frankly, it's not a great draft. It's not a lot of fun to be had in the second round. Last year there was a lot more fun, I think. So, let's go ahead.
Draft 40 players from this draft class.
Dude, the 3rd and 4th round of this draft class is going to be bad.
It might set a record for most free agents drafted.
The thing is, it is deep. So there's just not a lot of top heavy. To me, the first round, if you look at the first 7 or 8 guys, look at 9 and 10. I think there's a massive drop off. It just kind of falls, even after the top 5, kind of floors out. So it's a very interesting draft. There's good players. There's going to be good 3rd, 4th round players. It always happens. Yep. But who's done their research this year is the question. If you've done your research, I hope it's the guys with all the picks.
I hope tips.
I hope it's the guys with the picks because you're going to have to hit on these guys later on in the draft that, frankly, nobody's talking about these guys. Guys like Tyler Beatty to the Falcons. That's actually a good landing spot, but do you know who Tyler Beatty is right now? That's a question. You have to ask.
Do you believe in Sam Howell throwing Tyler Beatty the football?
Exactly.
A terrible offensive line.
Do you believe in Wan'Dale Robinson with the Chiefs? That's a viable 2nd round selection.
Do any of us believe in Jamison Williams? No, but Dustin will, and that's why he's going to take him at 1-7.
Jamison Williams also feels like a James pick, and maybe it's just because he got James in his name.
That's true.
But I feel like James would also be on board with Jamison Williams. He's got that burner. And honestly, the play style of Jamison Williams, if you ever watch him play, feels like an Alex pick. He loves fast guys. He really enjoys them. So you never know.
Crash and burn.
So that's rough. All right, so we're gonna move on from there. Great transition.
Next.
Excellent segue into would you rather, Sean, AJ Brown or CD Lamb? I know this is tough because you got one of the guys.
Yeah, I know it hurts even more that I'm gonna pick CD Lamb.
Yeah, I feel like CD Lamb is the better selection. I believe he's younger by a couple of years. He's already good. Yep. He's gonna get even more targets this year. It's not like, hey, we're not saying these guys are bad.
I think the opportunity is going to be there. There's no more Amari Cooper, so that's just opportunity gained.
This is his year, man. I think if CD, obviously the hype was big last year on him, but man, especially in redraft, he might go in the 2nd round in redraft just based on opportunity. He's going to get targets, and I know they've been shopping for another receiver. They'll probably end up drafting one, but it's not going to be enough to he's going to be the number 1 guy, right?
If they get a receiver, it's going to be
3rd round,
2nd, 3rd round at the earliest.
Maybe a Wan'Dale Robinson. Who knows?
Yeah, I like CD Lamb. I like Michael Gallup too. I think he's great.
He's just got to stay healthy.
Yeah, that is very true.
I mean, frankly, if he stays healthy, he's a great player. I mean, he might be the next quality number 2 guy to kind of blow up.
It wouldn't surprise me if they both played the same number of games that Gallup outscores CD Lamb. It wouldn't shock me at all.
No. It really wouldn't. And AJ Brown, I mean, I think AJ Brown's a complete stud, though. That's the problem. We know he's a stud. So it's just a matter of him getting it together and what team he might even be playing for. Who knows? Anyway, next, would you rather Christian McCaffrey or DeAndre Swift? And this is kind of dependent on what your team looks like, I think.
I just don't believe in CMC being healthy. I believe that he's amazing when he plays, but
do you believe in DeAndre being healthy? He hasn't really been the model of great health either. He's been banged up a lot. I probably played half of the games last year.
What do you think the age difference is there?
A lot. I think DeAndre's 21 or 2. He's young. He came in young, and McCaffrey's 25 or 26.
I think they're both going to stay around longer than most running backs because they're both very good pass catchers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if the difference is age, I might just go with DeAndre Swift, but I think it's a
team build situation.
I think it's a controversial pick, but
now,
I'm going to go with Swift.
I think I would go McCaffrey.
It's fair.
But that would be because I'm looking at it as a win now type of deal.
Yeah.
Imagine if McCaffrey gets traded out of the Panthers and ends up in just a great situation. I don't know which situation it'd be where he's gonna get all the carries again, and it's a team that's good.
And still won't be on the field.
And if he gets hurt, he gets hurt. But I've seen what McCaffrey can do. We haven't seen the full DeAndre Swift yet. It's still kind of more of a potential projection based thing.
And I still think that team they'll be better than they were. They're building. I think they're moving in the right direction. I think this is the first time the Lions have actually looked like a competent organization.
Okay, that's fair.
scary thing to say because it's the Lions, but
that's fair.
They're actually. It feels like they're making progress, even though their wins aren't. Because they could have won.
This is a 5-year rebuild, dude.
Yeah,
like they're bad.
But they lost how many one-score games in a row to start the season?
A lot.
Year? They could have had like 6 or 7 wins last year.
They could have, and honestly, if they didn't have Jared Goff, those probably are wins.
It could have been very easy for them to just be like, "Well, fuck, we just lost these games. We could have won." And then they just bail on the season and don't win a single game. They played hard the entire year, so I think that mentality is going to keep going, and I do think DeAndre Swift's going to be a very good pick this year and going forward. So I'm going to go Swift.
If you go Swift, the Lions end up taking a quarterback in next year's draft, which seems to be the right move for them.
If they take a quarterback this year, I think that's a huge mistake for them.
I would agree.
Serviceable enough to get you through the rest of his contract, and then you take a friendly rookie deal. Why would you start a rookie deal while you still have Goff? You're still paying all that money for a quarterback.
It doesn't
make any sense.
It doesn't add up.
Capitalize on the salary cap that's non-existent in the NFL, but take advantage of it.
Yep.
As much as you can.
And the fact that I think they have a potential out of Goff's contract after next year.
Yeah.
I think they can get out of Goff, get the rookie deal, actually have some playmakers. If Chark ends up playing well, re-sign him again. They'll probably draft another receiver. They have Amon-Ra. They have Swift. They have Hawkins. They actually have pieces. They have Sewell on the line. They have guys.
It's getting there.
They're not that far away offense. Now, defensively is a whole nother thing.
Yeah,
but we don't give a shit about that.
That's fine.
This is fantasy.
A great pass
this is fantasy. So if you get, let's say, a Bryce Young next year or one of these big CJ Stroud or whatever, these big guys, then Swift's stock is blown up.
To the moon.
I mean, so now is the time, I guess, with Alex potentially selling DeAndre Swift, I didn't know where that
I think that would be an early decision by him to do that because I think
premature.
I think he could be traded at the same value as Jonathan Taylor in a year or two. It wouldn't.
It's possible.
Me. I don't think that's going to happen, but I wouldn't surprise.
Do you think if could you get 2 firsts for DeAndre Swift right now?
No.
I think you could because if you look rankings based,
depends on where your firsts are. If you're a competing team, I wouldn't.
No. If you're a rebuilding team trading for Swift, you're giving up 2 high picks probably. I would not give up 2 high picks for Swift personally.
No.
I don't think I don't think anybody's giving up 2 high picks for McCaffrey anymore.
No.
I think those days are unfortunately
he's such a scary player to trade for. I think he's just a whole
He's a great buy low if he stays healthy.
If you're selling him low.
Yeah, are you even you're probably not going to sell him low. Why would you?
Yeah, in a startup, he's still probably going top 5, assuming it's not super flex or anything, but he's still probably way up there.
Yeah, he'd probably be back into the first round, right?
I think I said he was still top 5.
It's possible. I mean, maybe not. Definitely not in super flex.
He's sure fresh enough. That's for sure.
I mean, he's not even that old. He's not. I mean, he's banged up, but he's not that old. He's only 25, 26.
He's gonna late career Danny Woodhead to everybody and just never stop playing.
He is going to be a guy that's around a long time. I don't see him being an early retiring guy.
Nah.
I don't see that happening. Let's go to the next one. So it's Chase Claypool or Gabriel Davis.
Oh no!
I think they're pretty close. That's why I picked these. Of course, I picked these because I think they're close.
Shit, man, that playoff game was just amazing.
Dude, 4 touchdowns and 200 yards.
One's got a quarterback and one currently doesn't, so I'm taking Gabe Davis.
I'm having a really hard time with this.
I think Claypool's more talented, but
I don't know
Davis
if he
has
is.
the opportunity.
I don't really know if he is. I think he's also a dope.
He's an idiot, yeah.
So I don't know. It's tough.
More reason to go with Gabe Davis.
I love Gabe Davis too. I think the issue.
One of the best sideline catchers, by the way.
Yes, he is.
His
toe tag specialist.
Fantastic.
Toe drag swag is off the charts. I think I have to go Claypool based on the fact that I've seen him just absolutely light up a game multiple times. Where I've seen Gabe Davis could very well just be a one and done. I don't know.
3 or 4 touchdowns against the Eagles in one game. I can't remember how many it was.
I thought it was 4 or 5. It was ridiculous. But Claypool, I'm not this year. Whatever. He's with probably Mitchell Trubisky or Malik Willis or whoever the hell the quarterback is. Maybe Baker Mayfield. I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm sure if you go back and watch the tape, I'm sure Ben missed him on just about every throw.
Yeah, I think he'd throw out last year entirely. Honestly, I think Claypool, based on we've seen more from him in the same amount of time than we've seen out of Gabe Davis, and I worry that Stephon Diggs and Dawson Knox and other targets may not go to Gabe Davis, even though they're losing Sanders and maybe Gabe Davis is picking up more targets. They also could draft somebody this year too. I don't see Claypool's target share getting any lower than it currently is, personally. I mean, it doesn't seem like they're going to bring in another guy and Claypool's shit's going to go away because he's such a unique player.
He's still the number 2 receiver on a team that's not they don't have a quarterback.
I think it's more of a long-term projection with Claypool because you're expecting them to get a good quarterback in the next couple of years.
And I don't see him ever being more than 3rd on receptions on this team because I think Najee Harris is going to be
he's going to catch a lot of balls.
Yeah. It's
tough. It's a tough one. I think it's so close. That's why I picked these, obviously, so I can have the debate. But
Claypool's going to bounce up and down, just varying off of his touchdown consistency, which is the most unsticky stat in football for fantasy football. So
that's true. But I think if you're going on pure upside, like Gabe Davis looks like, okay, this guy could be like insane, like Mike Evans level good. Like
They've brought him along so slowly.
So smooth though. But now they're gonna be like, here we go. Here's Gabe Davis. Here's the unleashing.
Didn't they sign another veteran receiver?
I believe they did, and I don't think it was anybody that would be like, wow, he's gonna take away targets like that many targets. So I'm
blanking on.
I don't know either, but we'll have to figure it out at some point. But here's a fun one: Clyde Frog or David Montgomery.
Well, the Bears won't re-sign David Montgomery, and then once running backs go to their next team, it's usually not as great. So I'm gonna go with Clyde because
he's still got a couple more deals on the rookie deal too, because he's got a 5th-year option. He was a first-round pick.
Who?
Clyde Frog.
Clyde, yeah.
So I think Clyde Frog this would be his 3rd year. So he's got this one, and then the next one, and then potentially another one after that. So 3 years with the Chiefs is pretty nice.
He has no competition for targets out of the backfield because they picked up Ronald Jones.
That's true. They're probably not going to draft one now. So you don't have to worry about like a high draft capital running back coming in. So I think Clyde Frog has, he's at least going to have his targets that whatever he had last year, he's probably going to do the same.
Who do I want next year between the two of them if they both play? No running back plays a full season, but like pretty close together. I would probably take Montgomery too.
He played really well last year.
He's good.
He's really solid. I've always kind of liked him. It's just like the first year he was
RB4 2 years ago.
Oh boy, that's a great question. I have him in Galactic, and he played so well for me for such a stretch of games that I was like, man, like how are people forgetting about this guy? Like he's still young too.
Smoothly as like an RB2 like every week, and that is enough because
kind of in that Josh Jacobs like category, but he's way cheaper.
Yep.
So it's very interesting. I'm a fan of David Montgomery, but I'm still a proponent that Clyde Frog is not that bad. I just don't know what they're doing with the usage, because I thought when he got drafted, that was going to be like Brian Westbrook Jr., and that just does not happen.
So let me take you on a journey of what the Kansas City offense could potentially look like this year, because they now have traded Tyreek, so they're off. So they're taking the top off of the defenses down. Their starting receivers this year are now going to be Juju, and then who's their other starting receiver right now?
Probably like Demarcus Robinson.
And it's MVS.
Oh, that's right. Actually, Robinson signed elsewhere.
So Juju and MVS are both very above average run blockers. Travis Kelce also, I would say, probably above average like blocker.
He's he's the most underrated out of the big tight ends, because I get sick of the slander that he's not that good of a blocker. Shut the heck up. He's a good blocker.
Not to say that you're not going to have Patrick Mahomes just like gunning the ball down the field, but now you almost look like a team that can competently really run the ball any way you want, because now you've got players on the field, all 11, that can really work within the running game.
Very true.
And I love that for Clyde, because this is probably the highest I've been on him since he got drafted.
And it's not that he's been garbage to start his career. He's getting decent work in. It's just not when you take a guy that high, you expect better, right? Like it's just that simple. But he's definitely been serviceable. I mean, he's an RB2 most of the time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if he just shows up, like you said, with all the factors that you talked about, if he shows up and, goes to that more of a borderline into RB1 territory, then it's like, okay, now we got something. And that would be great for your team.
The biggest worry is just red zone. It's all goal line for Clyde. So
right. Yeah.
Scary.
That is the question. And they love to throw it in the red zone. The Chiefs love to throw it.
They do all the
They do like those shovel passes and like Travis Kelce will throw touchdowns out of nowhere. Like they do some weird stuff.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm taking Clyde.
Clyde Frog it is. Clyde. That's fair. Okay, so that is the end of the slideshow, and basically we're in full draft mode right now. We are coming up on the actual draft is 6 days away. They have as of right now. I know we've had some discussions about it, but the draft is currently scheduled to happen not this Sunday, but the Sunday after. Primetime draft. So unless that changes. With people that really don't want to have it at that time. I'm still open to potentially changing it, but I would like to have it on Sunday. It's just the way that's my opinion, I guess. But I understand the arguments for other people, and if people have different schedules, that's fine too. Just let me know in the Discord, and we can discuss it further. But as of right now, still planning to go for next Sunday. It's basically going to be the Tibbs and Alex special for the first round, and it's going to be exciting to see because I think you're going to see a lot of trades. I really do. I think there's going to be a lot of movement, whether it be people moving up, people moving down, moving for future years, players being involved. I can see all kinds of shit happening. So, despite it not being, quote, the strongest draft class, it's going to be exciting no matter what. And of course, it's prime real estate whenever you can see Alex making picks, right? So it's a great thing to be involved with. So I'm excited for the draft. And I think the NFL draft is going to be a really weird one this year because of the fact that there's not...
Could be a lot of movement in just the regular NFL.
I think so, too, because I feel like a lot of people are going to value these players so different. And I think also, too, there's... somebody was mentioning on one of the other podcasts I listened to, they have so much tape on some of these guys because there's so many players in this pool because a lot of them chose to stay after the COVID year that there's just even more players involved this year. And it's made the overall class deeper. So, like, you're going to have guys in the 5th, 6th, 7th round of this draft that will hit at a higher rate, in my opinion, than previous years.
There's also been this culture shift in the NFL of, like, draft picks aren't as valued as they by
Fuck teams. Them picks is in full effect.
Yeah, the Rams have completely shifted the mentality of a lot of teams in the NFL, which could make the drafts very interesting.
Fuck them picks is... I think it's taken a cue out of basketball, kind of those superstar mentality. Like superstars have a lot of pull now. So I think more drafts happen. We could see a Debo trade. That seems to be the hot news right now. Could see a McCaffrey trade.
Could see a Kyler Murray.
You could see Kyler. You could see Baker. I think it's going to be. That one's not as exciting, but it's still starting quarterback being moved around. It's going to be an interesting draft, and I'm really excited for it. So. Let us know what you're thinking as far as draft date and draft time. Hope you enjoyed. I know we've had a little bit of a lull in these podcasts, but I hope you enjoyed some of this draft talk that we kind of really haven't talked a whole lot of draft so far.
I really haven't, no.
And it's frankly, I don't know if it's been because it's a weaker year or if maybe there's really only a couple of guys that have the picks this year. It seems like, at least in the first round.
Yeah, they're just hogging them all.
Tibbs has 11 first round picks in the next 3 years. Think about that. And I actually want to leave. How about this? We end on this stat. Let me see if I can remember it. But we were talking about it earlier. I saw it on Twitter. Jamar Chase, not an Alex selection, a Justin selection. Jamar Chase has for last year, had 33% of his fantasy points come on 6 total plays. That shit blew my mind. He basically had catches of 90, like 80, 69, 50, 70, and something else. Like, it was just an absolutely crazy number. A third of his fantasy points were on 6 total catches. That completely blew my mind.
It's getting it done.
So we'll leave you with that. Thanks for watching. Thanks for Sean for actually being here in person.
Just for this. This is the only reason I'm here. I'm actually flying out right now.
We flew him out just for this. It has nothing to do with disc golf or anything else we got going on.
Yeah.
No. So this is probably a once off type of deal. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And hopefully you guys got some draft information out of it too. Maybe not too much draft information, but just something. Right. And I hope you enjoyed the busts. Everybody loves the busts.
Everybody loves a good bust.
It's personally my favorite part of the league is going back and reviewing the old busts and names. So we'll see y'all later. Thanks for watching.